Do, 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 do. Alright, so let's get that going. And this going. And go post that. Yeah, actually I need to post at 2 points. Okay, post there. That's posted. And where else? Let's see here. Go here, go here. Woo. Hey, Jimmy boy, always making me blush. Alright, let's post it there. And there. And let's tag like that. Okay. Really? Okay. Alright. And let's go here and here. Jacob says, did you see the video about Avery Styles being signed to not AAA, TNA? Yeah, I saw it, but I'm not really interested. I mean, I know that's AJ Styles' son, but I really don't care. And give it another moment while I get this set up. Ah, there we go. Let's complete addition. I'll do that. And save. Alright, so okay, so let us go here. Alright, so let me gonna get started. So, welcome. My name is Ryder Maven. I am the host of the Wrestling Receipts podcast, covering Judgment Day, Dom, and AAA, and implies. So, there are two Dominik Mysterio stories happening at the same time. In AAA, Dom may have helped create a problem for himself by encouraging Omos to attack Rey Mysterio. And on Monday Night Raw, Dom has deliberately inserted himself into the Big Cass Javon Evans situation. And this is backed up by the WWE's own social media describing what happened on Monday Night Raw. So that isn't just me saying it, it's the WWE themselves saying it. One story could potentially cost Dom an ally, the other could potentially give him an ally. But the key word here is potentially. Tonight is all about being careful about not turning clues into conclusions before the WWE Access gives us the build. And as we keep seeing, they have been really, really reluctant on pulling triggers, so I have pulled way back on a lot of my thinking just because it can, they just refuse to pull triggers regarding the Judgment Day. So, I'm going to be just talking all that. So, we're going to be talking AAA and the match between Omos and Galeno. We're going to be talking about what happened with Dom and Dorian Roldán and what could happen there. We're going to be talking about Rey Mysterio, what happened with him too. Did Dom screw himself? Um, let's see. Um, we're going to talk about Dom and Big Cass. We're going to be talking about the lore behind whatever happens when Dom tries to start recruiting other people or tries to get allyship for himself in the WWE at least. We're going to be previewing Monday Night Raw. We are going to talk about what I think will happen, what I hope will happen, and all that. So, let's get into it, shall we? I wonder if I should just start playing some gaming. Ooh, let's see. Let me go here, here. So, let's see what's going on here. Let's see, I'm going to go do something really, really quick, and then I'm going to get started. And here. That. All right, so what should I do first? Jacob says, don't forget about Raw starts at 6 for tomorrow. Yes, Monday Night Raw will start at 6 Eastern, 5 p.m. Central for Monday Night Raw. It's an early start time because they're doing the double taping. So Monday Night Raw will come on earlier and it will be live. So. And Lone Rebel says, hey, Lone Rebel, what's up, writer? How's your day going, my friend? Also, what would you like to see each member of the Judgment Day go from here, or when they go separate ways when it comes to the current group? What I would want, I do want Dom to eventually go his own way, but I think it still needs build. So he might still have somebody attached to him. Now, I do think that should not be Liv. That Dom should go. Maybe should be pared down a little bit, where he has maybe one other person, either like somebody like a bodyguard type, because if he's still going to be a heel, or somebody like that. But he'll eventually go solo, but I think he still needs somebody there. Um, for Roxanne and Raquel, I think they should be going their separate ways. But that's in eventually. Um, I don't know. I mean, I do want Raquel to be a champ. I do want Roxanne to be a champ. With Liv, I'm exhausted, like I keep saying. So I almost think she should take some time off. Like, she's just been all over the place, all in Judgment Day stuff. I think she just needs a break. Like, whatever, if it ever comes to like some kind of betrayal or something like that, I think she just needs to take a break. Like, she takes a break and then comes back. I know she lost time last year because of her injury, but I think it just would be better for her just to take that break. If she loses the title, she gets betrayed, whatever, and then she comes back. And then she'll probably have a face turn alignment. With Raquel and Roxanne, I'm not really seeing a face turn alignment. Same thing with Dom. Dom, I think they're just holding him heel until Rey decides to give it up. Raquel and Roxanne, they need a lot more build to get them into a face position, so I don't think their turn either. I think their face turns will be a long term out. Um, and with JD, I need him to be in singles title contention before he get before whatever if Judgment Day is implodes, he needs to be in singles title contention. So that's what I need to happen with Judgment Day members, at least the current ones. But thank you for the comment, Lone Rebel. 850 Big Boy says, "What's good, everybody?" Hello, 850 Big Boy. I'm gonna get started with some BioShock. I'm gonna see where I stopped at because I kind of just quit out of it last time. So I'm gonna see where I'm at, and then we're gonna get into AAA. What happened with Omos and Gillian, and why Dom could have gotten screwed himself when it relates to AAA. So let's go on and get going, shall we? Okay, so I need to actually turn up the music, Murder Maven. You keep turning it down. Okay, let's go turn you up. Actually, let me turn you up just a little. Okay, I'm right here.
Father Comstock called on me today to write his biograph. Me. The man pays for exactly 100 pages in advance. Now, I'm half a Jew when I smell silver, so I say, Father, your flock would pay for 1,000. You know, why settle for less? And then the prophet looks to me and says, 100 will suffice, as I know how it ends.
Because today is the day that marks our secession from the Sodom below.
Whoa! Damn hook must be magnetized.
Let me adjust my thing here just a second. Lone Rebel says, if you ask me, I would say that JD remains in the mid card, but as a face on Raw, Raquel should stay in the mid card, but have her remain a heel, but on Raw, and Roxanne turn her face for the big title. I mean, yeah, I could see that eventually going that way, but I think it still takes a bit to get there. It's been so long since Roxanne's been face. Like, I think I know she can pull it off because she was the plucky face in NXT, but I think, like I said, I think it needs a lot of build, and she will need a good heel to go against this portal.
Come out!
As our prophet has seen, the false shepherd has come to take our land and lead us astray.
Father Comstock called on me today to write his biograph. Me. The man pays for exactly 100 pages in advance. Now, I'm half a Jew when I smell silver, so I say, Father, your flock would pay for 1,000. You know, why settle for less? And then the prophet looks to me and says, 100 will suffice, as I know how it ends.
I need to really stop pressing that down button.
I'll kill you myself.
All right, let me get over here. Um, One Rebel says, as for Liv, have her continue to feud with Stephanie as a heel and Liv being a heel because Stephanie is way too over as a heel due to her move of having them in losers Raw match. I don't know, maybe. Stephanie's popular enough. I'm just not a big fan of her. Ify Victor says, yeah, I agree about Liv taking a break after what happens with the Judgment Day. I mean, I don't want to say that say that she was overexposed, but she has been getting tiresome as of late. Yeah, it's just too much. Like everything runs out. Like everything she comes out, it's her eye on the Titantrons. Like Raquel, even though she's champ, can't get her own, symbol on there. Roxanne can't get her own symbol on there because you noticed last week that or 2 weeks ago they resumed with putting Liv's eye on the video screens when like Roxanne was wrestling and Raquel. Like, why is that there? They have their own symbols. Everybody in the Judgment Day has their own symbols. Dom, JD, Roxanne, Raquel, and Liv. So there's no point in having her eye on everything. That's one of those annoying things. Like everything runs through her, and then she's getting all this big setup. Meanwhile, Dom and JD are kind of dealing what they're dealing with now, and it looks like that's gonna pick up a little bit, thankfully. But I'm gonna get into that. But still, it's just like we've just gone through so much Liv. Like we don't even Dom even hasn't done enough for us to get exhausted of her. Like people always complain about, well, Raquel is always getting a title shot. Yeah, but do you feel exhausted of her to the point like Liv? I mean, at least Raquel was doing something at the time, and she wasn't overexposed. Same thing with Roxanne. Same thing with JD. Even Finn. The only thing people got tired about with Finn is because they never wanted to pull the trigger with Finn and Dom. But nobody was just saying like, "Oh, I'm just so tired of Liv." You see what I mean? Um, Um, A50 Big Boy says, which to be fair is the point of her character. I know. I mean, I know she's supposed to be annoying, but there's annoying as a heel, which I get because Ethan Page annoys me, but he doesn't annoy me to the point where I want him to go away. Like Ethan Page annoys me greatly, but I'm not wishing for him to go away. Lone Rebel says, have Liv put Stephanie over, which would write Liv off TV. So, say if she wants to do something like get married or something like that, she'll take a break from WWE and return to SmackDown and space. I'd rather just do that. Just have her write her off, do whatever, come back, and by the time if Rhea's back at that time, hey, let them revisit Liv for brutality. But I think she just needs to be away from Raw at this moment. Because it's just like people are already still talking about her title defenses. Like Chelsea has an excuse because she has her injury, and I know they're going to have her defend before those 30 days are up. Roman Reigns, knowing his schedule and knowing how he is, has defended more than Liv. CM Punk just defended this past Friday night on SmackDown. And even the mid-card champs are defending more. So it's just like, at this point, it's just like, okay, we get it. It doesn't make sense. Like, there are people that she can defend this title against, but they refuse to pull the trigger for whatever reason. And that's why I have a caution going on right now. Lone Rebel says, Dom getting booked better in AAA while he's getting booked like a joke on the main roster. Yeah, it's that split, and that is exactly why I keep saying, like, you can't just say that Dom should just go into AAA and stay there. Because AAA still has his fingers in AAA. Even though The Undertaker is doing most of the stuff, AAA is still credited on there if you look at the end credits on AAA broadcasts. He's still credited. So you can't just say, like, Dom should just stay in AAA. Because he will eventually have to go back to the main roster. And until that main roster booking is fixed, then it's not, whatever he does in AAA is not going to amount to much. And that's always been my argument. He can't hide in AAA. If it was like, if they had put AAA at equal billing like Raw and SmackDown, then yeah, I could see him like just staying in AAA. But AAA It's not built to be on equal billing like Raw and SmackDown. AAA is kind of like NXT, where whatever happens in NXT, they'll reference what's going on in NXT, but it has no impact on the main roster. You see what I mean? Going back to TikTok. Um, let's see. Katie says, "What are we talking about tonight, sweetie?" Oh, we are talking about a lot. We're going to be reviewing AAA. We're going to be talking about if Dom screwed himself. We're going to talk about Dom and Big Cass. We're going to talk about the lore behind Dom recruiting people or attempting to recruit people. We're going to be previewing Monday Night Raw. We're going to be talking about what I want to happen on Monday Night Raw and what I expect to happen on Monday Night Raw. Because, of course, you got to go into these things with low expectations. So we're going to be talking about a lot. Katie also says Dom has a really great storyline in AAA, and now a new Judgment Day kind of deal. I mean, he does, but he might have screwed that up already if you watch AAA. Let's see. Jacob says, "What do you think of Tiffany's new look?" I'm not going to comment on it. I have my personal feelings on it, but Tiffany, I'm not sure why she's doing that. If she's going heel, okay, I get it, but Tiffany's look, I'm I'm just gonna say no comment. Misha says, "I'm sorry I'm late. Did I miss a lot?" No, you didn't. I just playing. I was just getting started on some BioShock gameplay before I start really talking about um Monday Night Raw. I mean, AAA. So, okay, so let's talk about AAA. And we're going to start off with Omos versus Galeno. First and foremost, I love Galeno here. I know that is the son of Dr. Wagner Jr., like the older Dr. Wagner Jr., and then he's the brother of El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. You know how I love him, but seeing Galeno there, um, I'm already a fan. So, but I did like how he and Omos were going back and forth there. It was a meaty match, and if you watch AEW, you know that's a meaty match. But they were just kind of going back and forth, slamming each other, and then it comes around to, Galeno hitting him with the Omos with the steel steps, and then Omos takes over and hits him with the steel steps, and then he keeps going even though the referee was cautioning him not to do so. So the match gets thrown out. I didn't understand why they didn't like throw out the match when Galeno hit Omos with the steel steps, but maybe they have a lot of variance there. Maybe AAA kind of allows it a little bit, like you can hit them with the steel steps, and maybe they put it like as a part of the ring, where maybe once you can hit them once, but if you keep doing it against the refs, and it might have been because Galeno was down too at that point, so maybe it was just the refs saying like, "Hey, Galeno's down, you need to stop," and Omos was just ignoring the instruction, and maybe they just did it because of that. Maybe that, So but I get it. They just did it to toss out the match, and it doesn't really impact Galeno too harshly, and it doesn't impact Omos too harshly. Um, but Omos isn't finished. He picks Galeno up, slams him into the announce table twice. Then he takes those steel steps, chucks those into the ring, gets into the ring, grabs the steel steps, and he's gonna go um, chuck these steel steps at Galeno, who's down and out on the outside. And then this is when Rey Mysterio, the deadbeat dad, shows up. He's saying, "No, don't do it." And then he gets into the ring and gets in Omos's face. Omos tosses the ring steps back, and then he grabs Rey Mysterio and hoists him up to chokeslam him. Now, this is the interesting bit. Dorian Gray, if you have been watching him prior to all this, he was supporting Omos and what he was doing. Like, he was going after Galeno. Um, he was pretty much supporting all that. But as soon as Omos picks up Rey. He's like, no, don't do it. And then this is when Dom comes out. I don't even know how fast Dom got out there, but he got into the ring some kind of way. And then Dom was doing the extra funny bit of wanting Omos to chokeslam his deadbeat dad. And I found that hilarious. It's just the position of Dorian begging Omos not to chokeslam Rey while he's hoisted up in the air with one hand, and Dom is like, "No, go on, almost do it." So that was funny to me. But eventually, Omos like drops Rey, puts him down, and Rey gets the mic and he says, "Okay, Omos, you are suspended from the AAA," and I think he said that he's banned from the buildings too. And then that just enrages Omos, and then he shoves Rey out the ring, and then Rey just reiterates that Omos is indefinitely suspended from AAA. So that's what happened on AAA. Some other interesting bits. We got Roxanne's boyfriend. He's going to debut next week. Um, his name is, what's his name? I have it. His name is Carcinero, if I'm saying that right. And he's looks like they're going for, if you look at the promo they gave him, El Carcinero, he has a Texas Chainsaw Murder type vibe, and I'm really interested in that because I love monsters. Like, I love The Undertaker. That was my gateway drug into the WWE. I love Kane. So I like monster type wrestlers. Abyss from TNA. So here he has this Texas Chainsaw Murder vibe to him. So he's gonna debut next week. I'm stoked, and I'm really hoping he does well because I think he's nailing the character from what I've seen so far. So I think he'll do well. But hopefully he goes well in his debut. Um, La Flammer has a is going to be getting like a gauntlet match to determine the number one contender to her belt. That's what Rey proposed. So we will see the gauntlet match next week too. So I'm expecting La Catalina to be in there, and probably some other people. Somebody suggested to me that could be a Roxanne thrown in there too. I would not be opposed to that, especially since her boyfriend's down there. I wouldn't be opposed to Roxanne throwing down in there. Give her, I kind of hate that for La Catalina, but if they really want to do something right now, they can, if they wanted to even it out with Raquel, Roxanne, and Liv, she can sneak her way into that belt with Flammer. Like I said, I would hate that for La Catalina, but maybe that builds up La Catalina so she can get the fan support. I think it's there, but they like throwing in obstacles because that's like old school booking, where you kind of edge the crowd to a point where you have to pull that trigger, but you can't edge the crowd too long. That's why I'm saying, like with El Grande Americano, you can't edge the crowd too long with that either. So, if they really wanted to do something, they could throw Roxanne into that tournament. Like, I'm pretty sure they would have like a Lady Shiva and some of the other ladies in there, and maybe some people from the WWE main roster NXT. Like, you could put Carmen in there if you really wanted to from Pedro Stamal. So you could do that, but uh, so you could have Roxanne just be down there and get the title, and I wouldn't be opposed to that, especially like I said, since her boyfriend is going to be down there. Um, what else was going on? Oh, Los Americanos are the number one contenders to the tag team belts that are held by the War Raiders. I would not be surprised if they win those belts next week, because or they might edge the crowd again, but they could just have them win because they're associated with El Grande Americano, and that builds something up. Also, next week, we're going to be getting the contract signing between Dom and El Grande Americano, so we will have to see what all goes on with that one, too. But, yeah, AAA has been interesting. I've been enjoying it. Liv did not show up there, which I find interesting. I mean, I'm pretty sure she'll pop up at this contract signing, but I just find it interesting. You just do that one appearance right now and then just stop for the rest. Like, why are you doing that? So, circling back to Dom and Dorian, did Dom screw himself? Did he shoot himself in the foot? Huh? What?
That's set of this foot okay.
Yeah, if it's dry. Is it dry?
Yeah.
Let me see. It's a little damp on the top of the head, but yeah. You can see if he wants to dry the top of the head a little bit more. Alright. For a little bit longer, maybe. It's a little damp. So we have a nice, interesting juxtaposition here between Dom and Dorian. Dorian wanted Omos to stop. Dom wanted Omos to go. And now that has cost Dom Omos because he's indefinitely suspended. Now, that does not mean that Omos can sneak into AAA later and help out Dom, but for right now, it's an obstacle. So we have to see how Dorian takes it. Like, did he like that Dom? Does he like in like on a future on a like maybe next week? Does he like that Dom pretty much got Omos suspended? Also, with Dom, there's this, there's that thing here too. Like, Dom, you just cost yourself an ally because El Grande Americano is coming for your title. So you just cost yourself an ally. So what were you thinking there? Like, I know he hates his deadbeat dad, and that's been a consistent character thing with him, but you shot yourself in the foot there. Also, you can also see if Omos will be mad at Dom. Now, he did put Rey Mysterio down on Dorian's instructions, but will Omos be upset with Dom because he caught himself because Dom is pretty much telling him to chokeslam him. So maybe Omos could get upset with Dom. Or if he did do it, then maybe he gets mad at Dorian for not going with him. You see what I mean? There's just the different ways you can go with that. Now, with Omos out, who helps Dom? There's about 3 different possibilities here. Actually, 4. 1, Mini Vikingo. Mini Vikingo helped Dom with Vikingo when Dom was defending the title against Vikingo in that street fight, because Vikingo had beat up Mini Vikingo and put him in the hospital. But Mini Vikingo has been circling around Dom these last couple of months because when Mini Vikingo was heading out to face Rey Phoenix for the Cruiserweight Championship, Dorian gave him a look. Now, it would be interesting if Dorian recruits Mini Vikingo because of that beef that Mini Vikingo has with Vikingo. But since Vikingo has an injury, you can do this where Mini Vikingo kind of takes Vikingo's place, and then Vikingo can come back and be that face that they wanted him to be prior to, like, the crowd just kind of forcing him to become a heel because they didn't like how the WWE made him a champ over Alberto Del Rio, if you remember that. So maybe this is a way of rehabbing Vikingo's image a little bit, where since he's on injury, other people have taken his place. He can come back and be the face that they wanted him to be prior to Dom winning the title. Another part, you can also have Liv and Andrea mix it up. Now, again, I do not understand why Liv is all but hurt about Andrea, because it's not like Andrea was flirting with her man and she was doing the most, like when you have Roxanne there. Like, again, this is this whole WWE AAA things where the stories don't match up. But, like, she was doing the most. And I'm like, why are you all hurt? Why are you upset? Why are you mad? It don't make sense. And of course, people didn't like it because of her comments against Stephanie Vaquer too. So it's just like, like what, what are you doing? So Liv could do something to Andrea to maybe distract El Grande. So there's that distinct possibility too. Another reason, Judgment Day. Dom is still a part of the Judgment Day. He still gets referenced. He still has his icons in AAA too. So you can have Judgment Day down there to help Dom as well. So there's a couple of different ways Dom can retain. However, we have to kind of see if Dom can survive this first match, because El Grande has a lot of support, and yeah, I can see it where Dom maybe skips out on the match, skips out with the title with by the skin of his teeth, at Triple Mania. But um, they might pull that trigger for El Grande because of all the support. So they could do that too. Like Dom could just lose it. Like I mean, yeah, you could kind of drag it out to the next match, maybe Worlds Collide or something like that. But um, it's 50-50 on if Dom retains the title or not. Um, um, Going back to YouTube, Bone Rebel says, which is sad that Liv's title's reign is bad and terrible, and it's not even her fault. It's creative decision on whether she's booked and who she's booked against, and it's sad for her. I feel sorry for Liv. I mean, I do and I don't. I mean, I think there's some ways she could do it where, like, I don't like how, like, some of her promos are just like, I don't care. Like, there's being a heel, and then there's ways of being a heel where you don't insult other people like that. Like, I always liked it when heels would, when they're when they're being heels, they would put over the person too, kind of, that they're feuding against. And then, they're tearing people down, but the way Liv does these things, like, I don't care if I'm dragging the title back to the Diva era. I don't care about, it's just things like that. It just rubs me the wrong way. So, and this is where I say, like, I think she says she has creative input, quote unquote. So this is where the time where I'll be like, okay, I'll be going to creative and be like, hey, I don't want to say that. Like, mitigate it a little bit, because, like, even when Jade didn't have challengers, she would always go on record in some of these interviews and say, like, she wanted to defend the title more. You see what I mean? Like, it's things like that, and that's what kind of annoys me about Liv sometimes. Um, Jacob says on TikTok, even though it's a house of Liv was a ringside for Dom's match against Chad tonight. Well, there's one Liv Dom crumb. People were complaining that she wasn't showing up there, so yay them, I guess. Um, Katie Mason says, do you think Liv and Roxanne will fight each other soon? I don't know. They don't, like I said, they don't pull a trigger.
That says we need to brush right here.
Okay, get the brush. So, I mean, it just depends on when they pull these triggers. Katie Marcy says, I think if Big Cass joins, maybe Liv will be out. Maven, who knows? I mean, that's a part of the lore bit with Dom, so we will have to see, and I'll get into that. Katie also says Raquel is the women's IC champion, and will she defend it soon, or who will she go be against, Soul or Lyra? I mean, she has people to defend against. She has Soul, she has Lyra, EO if they want to toss her in there. So she has challengers. That's why I was so annoyed that she was just playing lackey to Liv last week instead of, like, focusing on her own title, because that's annoying. Like, she could have did what she did with Liv, and then later on she could have been out there to scout the competition between Soul and Lyra last week. So, but it is what it is. Let's see here. Let me play a little bit more, and then we'll get into. We're gonna get into. Where am I going to? Big Cast. We'll get into Big Cast after I play a little bit more. After I quit dropping stuff. Like my phone.
Locked.
Otis works up at the lodge part-time. He took this box from one of their secret ceremonies. And I know for sure, there is something dear inside. Problem is, Otis is more fool than not. He didn't bother to also secure a key from the Feathered Brothers to open the damn thing.
Impressive.
No. Katie says JD and Dom are helping each other out, but the girls are to Triple H's and pulling the trigger as of now. Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
I have a question.
But okay, so alright, time to Google this. Just I'll have to backtrack. Okay, so I'm not missing anything right now. Okay.
Violence is not the answer. As much as I support our cause and our people, blood must not be shed.
What do you expect these poor Negroes to do? How they treat them?
It was bound to violence is not a foregone conclusion.
Let's see. Lord, Bone Rebel says, as of when it relates to the loser is Raw match between Liv and Stephanie, which I would like to see Liv lose the title to Roxanne or Stephanie because, God forbid, we need Becky with the title again. Now, I do agree that Becky does not need the title again. Like, I don't want her with it because it's only so much like, oh, the man has come around to.
It's him. The one they're after. Go.
They're here!
Shh. Keep your voice down.
All right, let's move on.
So let me go over here. See why the heck I'm lagging. And all right. So Katie says, I see WWE pulling the trigger at Money in the Bank. That's a perfect storm situation, and that's what I've been cautioning against, but it would solve a lot of problems with the Judgment Day. But I see history has shown us that when we think things should, when the trigger should be pulled, like out of WrestleMania and at SummerSlam, it didn't happen. So I'm going to caution on that. I'm going to get into that too. HD Bigfoot says, one thing I've learned that Triple H's booking is that he'll wait until circumstances to want to pull the trigger. For example, with Sammy's heel turn in Canada and his title win in Saudi. Yeah, see, that's too. Like, we don't know what Triple H's, when he wants to pull that trigger with the Judgment Day. Like, we know it's going to be pulled, it's just a matter of when. And he's not subtle because you can see it lead to, but he's just so, it's just so long, and he just waits so dang long. Like, he should, like, right now, he should have pulled the trigger when Liv was out on injury. But it seems like they're just catching up to the point of when Liv wasn't injured. So it seems like they just waited all this time and just drug their feet until Liv got back, and then they drug their feet because Stephanie got injured, and then now they're gonna, now that Stephanie's back, now they want to roll forward with it, and it's just, this is what causes the frustration, because the trigger could have been pulled, and it was probably could have been for the best for the Judgment Day, and where people don't want them imploded. So. Kate says, I mean, the number of Judgment Day are we on right now? 3.0. I see a 4.0 in the future. That's why I was saying, like, I don't see Judgment Day imploding. At least not yet. They use Judgment Day for stories. If they didn't use the Judgment Day for storylines, then I could see them breaking up. But you see how the Vision is still around, and they barely have a story, so it is what it is. Lone Rebel says, as in, say, God forbid, when we don't need Becky with the women's title, as in let Rox or Stephanie have it, but such leaders is Raw. Okay. Luz says, yeah, so I just don't want Becky. I wouldn't want Becky with the title. Like, it's only so much, and I'm not the biggest fan of hers either, so. So, let me go back over here to TikTok. Max said, yeah, I know when they're gonna kick Liv out, because Liv fans still want Liv Dom. I don't even think Liv fans, not the certain section, want Liv Dom. I think there are Liv fans that want Dom because they want this couple. And at this point, Dom fans are just like, if you're, any kind of fan of Dom, why would you still want him in this relationship? Because look at what's going on with Maxine and Austin. I was looking at Maxine, Austin, and LA Knight. Like, they showed the dark match after SmackDown on Friday, and Maxine has been in there fighting for Austin, causing distractions, all this, and I see that like weekly with Austin and Maxine. I'm not even seeing that with Liv. Now, she might have popped up here now for this live tour thing, but it feels like it's too little too late, because they should have been doing this. Liv and Dom should be doing this. If they're going to be a power couple, they needed to be doing power couple things like shit or get off the pot. It's no point in the whole, having these two storylines, and then you just have them be a couple like on the walk-in, and then that's it. So, like, it's like they're like a couple in name only, and they do the bare minimum. Um, Jacob says, should we expect Liv to be in this match for next week or not? What match? It's just gonna be Roxanne and Stephanie. She might come out there to interfere or something like that, but she's not probably gonna be in the match because Lord forbid Liv be in the match. Maisha says that's what I said. Roxanne can come down and there she can have the belt and have the tag team belt. Like she could. Um Maisha says, I don't think Liv is gonna lose the belt. Yeah, he likes long term storytelling, but he needs Triple H. Maisha said if they don't do it at Money in the Bank, it's going all the way to Mania. That's what I was saying too. Didn't I say that like last week? Like I would not be surprised if they drag this all the way back around to WrestleMania. I would not be surprised. Um, Katie says, I don't think people understand that Liv and Dom are not acting like a couple right now, and they should be like acting like Maxine and Austin. See, that's what I'm saying too. They should be acting like Maxine and Austin, or at least Liv should be acting like Maxine, because what has Maxine been doing for Austin? She's been getting in there, fighting for her man, causing distractions, hitting low blows, especially like on the live tours. Like she's been doing all of that. Like she's been helping out Austin. What has Liv done? See, this whole losing streak that Dom has, she's nowhere near it. She can win and she has help to win, but with Dom and JD, they don't have, there's nobody helping them out. You're not even getting Liv out there to help them like in their matches. You're not having Liv come out there to help Dom win these important matches. Like she was talking about Dom being king of the ring, and then when it came to fighting over Femi, the only thing she could come up with was going with to Danhausen, and then she didn't do anything with Danhausen. Like she wasn't putting up the money of her own. That was Dom and JD. So she's not even helping Dom with that. She's not even like even if Dom was in a losing streak, at least she could have been out there to try and help. She's not doing that, and that's why I'm saying like how can you just keep saying that they're a couple if she's not doing anything? See, that's why a lot of Dom fans, myself included, is just like okay, they just need to break them up because they're not doing anything. They're not being cute. And I don't count live events. People keep telling me live events don't count, so I'm not going to count live events on this Liv and Dom stuff. Like I was trying to tell people, they're practicing. They didn't believe me until it happened. So right now, I'm just gonna be like, okay, that's just flavor. So like they're not acting like a couple. If there were a couple, they need to be doing more. They need to be Liv needs to be out there with Dom. Dom needs to be out there with Liv. They need to be Liv needs to be helping Dom out. Um, they need to be presented differently, but they're not. Um, Katie says some other people are saying that Dom is going to be with Stephanie. Well, if they're going to be doing that with this Dom and Stephanie thing, they need to get started building it. But I have not seen any kind of clues with Dom and Stephanie. People keep wrote off Dom and Roxanne, but there's been a lot more clues with Dom and Roxanne than there has been with Dom and Stephanie at this point. 850 Big Boy says also come to find out Leo was basically the only main event babysit they had for Liv, which is why we saw what happened at Queen of the Ring. Hence what led to Becky and Stephanie returning. Yeah, like they have the people, they just don't want to use them. 850 Big Boy says, which is to be honest, Becky was a forced babyface turn, but that's another topic. Yeah, that's true. Katie said the only time Liv was around Dawn was the Danhausen curse thing. Yeah, and it was half-hearted. Like she went hard against Danhausen for like 1 week, and then she was gone. And I'm like, okay, then now granted, I didn't want her to be around in the first place. See, I didn't want Liv to be involved with that in the first place because Dom and JD were holding that down. And then all of a sudden she gets inserted and then she was like all over Raw. You remember that Raw where, you know, JD was threatening Danhausen and then Liv popped up and we were like, why did Liv show up? It didn't make any sense. Like all of a sudden they had to insert Liv And then she was like all over Raw, and then after that, like the next week, she wasn't involved. So it's just like it doesn't make sense. Like they forced Liv into the match. And by the way, I still say that whole episode of Raw where Liv was like threatening Danhausen, that should have been Raquel, because Raquel was the one that had saved the jersey. So Raquel should have been the one that was actually physically fighting off Danhausen. You see what I mean? Like, it didn't make sense for Liv to be there. That seemed like that was a spot for Raquel, and then they switched it at the last minute to Liv, because all of a sudden, Raquel wasn't, Liv wasn't out there for Dom. Now, they did run that whole, that guy, thing that we will not talk about again, that boxer. But still, like, Dom and JD were clicking on their own with Danhausen. And I like it because they're bros. But then all of a sudden, Liv gets put in there for 1 week, and then she's out of there. And then she was able to win her match, and then Dom lost. So, it's just that stuff. Well, Rebel says, Ryder, did you read my messages? I just sent them, both of them. Yeah, it's about, I see the fantasy booking, but I just don't see them doing any kind of loser leaves Raw match right now. I mean, I could be proven wrong, but I'm just not seeing it right now. Katie says... Katie says, I went to the Columbus one live. It was my birthday gift. Don was over Roxanne. I didn't really see it, but maybe he was. The man says Katie, Dawn, and Stephanie aren't happy. Well, I just don't see the clues yet. If they start putting the clues here, yeah, I'll be willing to adjust my theory, but I just don't see it right now, because Stephanie is.
Is there any cups?
No, you might have to run out of cup.
Oh.
So, Mike said, "Who's your top 5 to win Money to Bank?" Men and women, I want Roxanne and Dom, but I don't know. Like people up there, it could be like Trick. It could be Carmelo, but I don't know about him either. It could be just, I don't know. It's just been so weird. Like, I know who I want to win, but it may not end up being that way. But who I want to win is Roxanne and Dom, but I gotta temper it. So, let's talk about Big Cass a little bit. We're going to go back to Raw because this has been more interesting. So we know what happened. JD was wrestling Javon after Javon had interrupted Dom complaining about not being included in that tournament. And then Javon beats JD, and then Big Cass comes out and attacks Javon. And then Javon gets the better of Cass, and then this is when Dominik gets involved by shoving Javon into the ring post. And then JD kind of co-signs on what Dom did by slapping Big Cass on the ass. I found that hilarious. So we had Dom getting intentionally involved with Javon, and you can get it because Javon cost JD beat JD, so we get that. But what's interesting is that WWE Social has kind of tied Dom into Javon, and he's tied into Javon and stuff like that, like in their official briefings. So we do have that connection. So Dom has been specifically inserted into this, and JD looks like he's co-signed on this because he slapped Big Cass on the ass. And I think if they were going to show some kind of discord here, you would have like JD arguing with Dom like on the way back up the ramp or the aisle. So Dom's a part of that story. What I'm not saying right now is that Big Cass joins the Judgment Day. We will have to see what happens on Monday Night Raw. So, we will have to see what happens on Monday Night Raw. Sorry. So we will have to see, and but here's the thing: Big Cass kind of makes sense. Now, is Big Cass my first choice? Big Cass wouldn't be my first choice for Dom. I wanted Omos. I wanted Tony D'Angelo, Bronson Reed, any other person. But Big Cass, at this point, like I said last week, I'll take what I can get. With Big Cass, he fills that heavyweight role and muscle role. Um, like he fits that muscle role, kind of like Raquel. Like Raquel is a muscle, so Big Cass fills that, and we need another guy in the Judgment Day. Like if they're gonna keep having guys, if they're gonna keep having Judgment Day around, they need another guy because Finn is not there. So they need that extra person. And since Dom is kind of still tied in with Javon because they have been going back and forth, like Javon has beaten Dom a few times already, so it kind of makes sense that the whole storylines are kind of looping together because Javon has beaten Dom, Javon has beaten JD, and then you got Big Cass in there making Javon's life a little bit hell, and then you have Dom helping Big Cass with Javon, so it makes sense. And that's why I keep saying AAA can't settle. Like, it's not really out of the blue. Like, they've been circling, Dom and Javon have been circling each other for a while. And maybe Big Cass doesn't join Judgment Day. They could just be like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, or enemy, and the enemy of my enemy is a friend. Like, they could even do something like that. Like, Dom doesn't like Javon, Big Cass doesn't like Javon, you know, it could be just an enemy mine situation. But like I said, the Judgment Day needs muscle. So, and we could, like I said, it could be. We could have any number of possibilities here. Now, before I get back into BioShock, Dom has recruitment lore. Like I was saying after Raw last week, there is a bit of where whenever Dom starts seeking out additional people, like friends, allies, or just something to help himself, he'll run into resistance. And then that resistance eventually gets kicked from the Judgment Day. And here's how it goes. Remember when Dom was aligning with Santos and he wanted to recruit Andrade? Who had a problem with it? Damian and Rhea. Which makes no sense because Dom was just going after Rey and like why does he need permission to go after his deadbeat dad? But I digress. So they had a problem with it. And then Dom was trying to recruit Carlito because Carlito turned against Rey. Damian and Rhea still had a problem with Carlito. And what happened with Damian and Rhea? They got kicked out. Finn had issues with Dom talking with El Grande Americano. Now, a caveat to this is that JD kind of did too, but Finn was the one that brought up the initial objection, and then JD was just pretty much wanting transparency. That's different. JD just wanted transparency. It wasn't a resistance to Dom, it was more like, hey, what are you doing? You know, that's different than Finn, who would just be like, no, I don't want no new members. And see, Finn was also the one that said Dom couldn't recruit any new members, like when he was trying to recruit Penta. But then he was able to recruit JD and Roxanne into the Judgment Day. You see what I mean? So he could do it, but not Dom. But look what happened to Finn. He's out. Now, we will have to see what happens. If Dom decides to do like maybe a temporary alliance with Big Cass, or maybe think about or float the idea of recruiting Big Cass, we will have to see who puts up a stink about it. Because right now it looks like GD is co-signing with Dom right now as it relates to Big Cass. So now we would have to see how Liv, Raquel, and Roxanne react. Because it would be interesting if Liv is like, no, even though there's no reason for her to say no, because she has all this help, but Dawn can't get help. You see what I mean? You could start, they could do there's some storyline possibilities here. You could do like Liv says no, because she's the quote-unquote leader of the Judgment Day, according to commentary, so she could be like, no. And then maybe Raquel backs her, but then maybe Roxanne says yes, or is okay with it, because you see that split I'm having with like Liv and Raquel versus Roxanne, JD, and Dom, because Roxanne, JD, and Dom are on this losing, like they're in this position where they're separate from Liv and Raquel right now. And the only thing that switches that up is like if anybody in that little group between Roxanne, JD, and Dom start winning, but they haven't been doing that. So it would be interesting if you do like something like where Liv doesn't want to because Dom didn't run it by her or something like that. Like, but why should he? You know, there's no leaders in Judgment Day, remember? And then Raquel backs her because she doesn't like it. And then maybe Roxanne says, you know, there's nothing wrong with it because they need the muscle. Maybe she comes at it like a practical way. Remember, Roxanne has been positioned as someone that's always been about the Judgment Day, the family. So maybe she will see it as like, hey, they need this muscle. The Judgment Day needs this, you know, in order to survive and get stronger. You know, they could play it that way. So if this comes up again, that's a pattern to watch and track. So we will have to see. And that's a distinct possibility there. And like I said, it doesn't mean that whoever says no to Big Cass gets kicked out. It's just a pattern there, because they could just do that, and then it takes another few months, all the way wrapping around to WrestleMania, before something major shows up. Katie says they portray Liv and Dom being together at the start of the show May 25th. I mean, yeah, they do the walk-in, but that's it. They're not doing anything else. That's what I say. Like, you can show them hanging on each other, but they're not doing anything. I mean, you show Maxine and Austin hanging around each other, but Maxine does more. Katie says it could be if Liv says no to Big Cass and she's out because Dom didn't get his help from Big Cass. I mean, that's just the pattern here. And then Sierra says Liv will be fine with it because Liv says Dom can do whatever he wants since they're a family. I'm just pointing out the pattern. But Rhea said the same thing too. Like, Rhea would be like, so, you know, be supporting Dom, but then when Dom was doing something else, she had a problem with it. see Santos and Andrade. That's all the way back in 2024, right before Live Dom. So there's a pattern there. Like it always happens with Dom. Like whenever he tries to reach out to do something on his own or try to get his own thing going where it helps him out, somebody has a problem with it. It's like with the whole El Grande situation. But this is like WWE El Grande. I'm not talking about AAA's because they made that a whole pocket uniforms. But when El Grande was coming around, in on the main roster, Finn had a problem with it. But it made no sense for Finn to have a problem with it. I mean, yeah, JD, because we want some transparency, but Finn having an issue with it was silly because he was able to recruit JD into the Judgment Day like he wanted, and Roxanne into the Judgment Day like he wanted. Liv was able to recruit Raquel into the Judgment Day like he wanted. But whenever Dom wants to do something that could build up the Judgment Day, Santos, Andrade, Carlito, Penta, even though we thought, that obviously wasn't going to happen, but he wanted to scout out Penta a little bit. We all thought that was going to happen. When he tries to do when he wants to put something into the Judgment Day that has his branding on the Judgment Day, people have issues with it. So just because Liv says that Dom can do whatever he wants, but she says that, but she's the one that's been pretty much been telling him what to do these past couple of months. She was the one with this Danhausen plan. She was the one with this, with Oba. She's been the one that's been doing all this. So if you tell somebody what you can say, they can do whatever they want, but she's been also telling people what to do. I got another notification, but I didn't hear it. Where did it go? Um, um, um. Let me see. Katie says, I think Liv is a curse. It would be something if they kind of wrap Danhausen's curse around to making it where it's just like Liv. That's why she was able to win. But I don't know. Let's see. Hermura says, I don't think there will be much segments between Cass and JD. To me, it's a one-time stuff. Well, I would think that if they hadn't attached Dom to like the show summaries on WWE social media. So So on WWE's .com's 10 takeaways from SmackDown and Raw, contributor Mark Colby discussed JD and McDonough and Javon Evans' match and its aftermath. He wrote that the match opened the door for Big Cass to attack Javon Evans again, and most importantly, it also injected Dominik Mysterio into that program. So if it wasn't one off, I don't think they would be using this type of language. And this is WWE.com. Now, can the social media team differ from creative team? Yes, but usually they would have to be instructed to write that. So we have this from WWE.com itself. And that's the direct statement about Dom's involvement with Big Cass. WWE didn't say that Cass is joining Judgment Day, that Dom is recruiting Cass, or that Cass is replacing JD. It's just that they're linking Dom and Big Cass together a little bit. So it's the WWE acknowledging it. Like if they hadn't really acknowledged it or they didn't use a tougher wording, then I would see it. So Herman said the one thing with Dom was that all the members he recruited happened when they had a problem with Ray because he was fighting with Santos and Carlito not too long ago before asking them to join JD. Well, he asked Carlito. He didn't ask Santos. He was allying with Santos to go against Ray, and then he tried with Andrade until Andrade turned on him, and that still doesn't make sense, but I digress. But still, that was still Dom reaching out to get allies or help with his own problems. Remember that the Judgment Day, Rhea was focused on her match, and then with Becky, and then he kind of got pulled into Becky, and then Damian had and Finn had their matches for the tag team titles, but Dom, he had to go outside of the Judgment Day just to keep going at Ray. And then what really annoyed me at that moment was that it was intimated like Rhea was like she had to give him permission to go after Ray again. You see what I mean? So Dom has to do all that just to get at his dad, try to get some revenge against Ray because he lost at WrestleMania the previous year. But everybody else could do what they want, and that's the thing here with Dom. Like everybody else, or at least the people that want to be in charge, can do what they want. Like let's look at what Liv is doing right now. She's doing whatever she wants. But when it comes to like Dom, when he's trying to get over a problem, like Ray is a problem for Dom. So whenever Dom is trying to get over a problem, people have a problem with him trying to overcome that problem. And right now he's on a losing streak. So what happens when he's trying to get over this losing streak? Who will have the issue with Dom, trying to overcome his problem? And again, that's just a pattern with Dom. Like whenever he tries to get outside the box, there's somebody trying to always pull him back into it. Katie says, Cass joins and Liv hates it. I wonder how much she take it after calling herself the leader of the group. Well, that's the thing. That's the pattern. It might be a while. I mean, you could have Cass join and then have nothing happen until later. Like the whole thing with Finn, he didn't get kicked out until a long time afterwards. So you could still have it where Cass joins and then nothing happens for a while. Harris says, I didn't tell JD Cass is replacing JD Dunna. I was telling him about Cass joining Judgment Day. I'm not getting what you're saying there. I know what you were saying, but I'm not understanding the comment. Jacob said, do you think Don will pass Phoenix for the 20-day title reign with the mega title or not? I don't know. He could or he might not. Personally, I kind of hope he drops it. I see no point in him holding on to that title. Could he hold on to the title just to edge the crowd some more so people will read? But see, this is this whole trigger pull situation. Like you can't keep edging the crowd and then to keep expecting them to be excited when the trigger pull happens. So if he holds it for that long, then what is he doing with it? It's not like he's down there wrestling with it. So I think he just needs to go and just drop it. He's held it for a year. I think that was is okay-ish range. They could have been having him do more while they were building up El Grande. So to me, I think he just needs to go and drop it. They got something white hot with El Grande Americano. Just let El Grande Americano have the title, and then if they want to have him around down there, try and get it back for a little bit, they can do that. But to me, I think he just needs to go and drop the title. I'm saying that as a dog fan. I don't see the point in him holding it for that long. Jacob says, do you think Don will ever become a double champ again? Maybe. It just depends what how it happens. What are your thoughts about All In? Not watching it. I mean, I watched All In Texas, but AEW's pay-per-views are too damn long. And I think I'm only interested in Willow versus Mercedes. Masha said, well, like I said, he doesn't have to join, just has to get involved so we get some madness. See, that's another thing, too. It could just be an enemy mind situation. He may not even join. Alright, let me get here, and then we'll preview Monday Night Raw. Let me check. Let's see. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, so let me play a little bit more, and then we'll preview Monday Night Raw. That was way too much.
What the? What just happened?
Lay down, I'll kill you!
Gentlemen, the false shepherd is loose in the streets of our fair city.
did so without hesitation. For 85 years they prepared the way of the Lord. But when a great apostate came, he brought war with him, and the fields of Eden were soaked with the blood of brothers. The only emancipation he had to offer was death.
Let me go into let's see here. I should say, if you had a plot twist on the Judgment Day, what would happen? Other than like Liv just leaving, I don't know. It's like that's a good question. Like one thing I would want them is to start like acting like a family, like an actual family where they actually like each other, or if it's just that, or just have them, because I don't even think of them, you know. I think I would go that route. Just have them be a family. Like if you're gonna keep them like together and you're gonna keep them like this, and you're not gonna pull the trigger, just have them act like a family for a little bit. You know, hugging. You remember when OG Judgment Day would like hug after every match and stuff like that? Like do stuff like that. You know, bring that back. Um, that's one way of doing it. Um, all right, so let me see. Let me talk about Monday Night Raw, because I'm gonna go and finish this out. So, the Monday Night Raw preview is logged. Scrap Daddy Adam Pierce didn't have anything new to add to the preview, so this is what's going to be going on relating to the Judgment Day. We have the match for Judgment Day, which is Roxanne Perez versus Stephanie Vaquer. Last week, Stephanie and Roxanne got physical. Roxanne hit Stephanie with the pop rocks, and the WWE has been presenting Roxanne Judgment Day as hasn't taking Stephanie out of permission. Although Liv has also been taking credit for it. Remember, Roxanne was the one that actually took out Stephanie, but Liv was the one claiming credit for it. She didn't really do anything in that assault against Stephanie. Stephanie has made this personal. She called Roxanne a dead woman, so Roxanne has a problem. What the WWE is already teasing. WWE's own preview asks how Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez could affect this match. They also tease whether Becky Lynch gets involved. So expecting outside involvement isn't something we're pulling from out of nowhere. The WWE itself is putting those names around this match. So Liv and Raquel are probably going to be around along with Becky Lynch. So, my Roxanne prediction, Stephanie versus Stephanie prediction. Unfortunately, it looks like Stephanie's going to win it. Like this is her return to action, so I expect Stephanie to win, which sucks for Roxanne because she needs to win too. Stephanie has returned looking for revenge. She's being positioned as a major challenger. I have a very difficult time believing what WWE has Roxanne just beat Stephanie clean tomorrow. Now, there's also a possibility that the match ends in chaos just due to Liv, Raquel, and Becky. Maybe they toss out the match because everybody gets involved. That's that possibility too. That actually kind of helps Roxanne where she's not straight up looking at another loss. But I'm not expecting Roxanne to win this match cleanly. She's either going to lose, or the match gets tossed some kind of way, or something else happens, maybe some more shenanigans. But Roxanne is not going to win this clean straight up. And again, like I said, Roxanne could really use the win. So I really hate that Roxanne is in this position. It's kind of like how Dom could use a win right now, but he's in, but if he gets positioned against somebody who else needs a win, like who else needs a win? I'm not sure, but if he gets positioned against somebody else that needs a win, you kind of think Dom's gonna lose there too. But here's what I would want to happen. Actually, before I say all that, here's what I also expect on Monday Night Raw. We have to see if they do anything like with Dom and Javon, like set up a match, because you could have Javon come out and call his shot against Dom because Dom shoved him into the ring post last week. So you can do like Javon looking for Dom and they set up a match impromptu. So you can see that too. Um, but other than that, that's Judgment Day stuff, and we would have to see otherwise if we get Big Cass around that too. So this is what I would like to happen. Um, this is this is Rudder Maven. This will never happen type booking, but I would like to see it happen. But I know it's not going to happen. You see what I mean? It's one of those weird. This is like a fantasy booking thing of mine. So this is what I would like to happen. We have Stephanie versus Roxanne happening. They're going back and forth. Maybe they get that spot where both of them are down. Then somewhere else, Dom and Javon are fighting. Like Javon, is found Dom. Maybe Dom's been ducking him, and then Javon has been looking for him. And then Javon finally catches up to Dom, and they start brawling. And it spills out into the ringside area. So while this is happening, Javon and Dom are fighting. Referee is distracted because you got this big fight happening. Then Big Cass shows up, and then he takes out Javon again. So there's now just even a bigger match. The ref is completely out of position and out of just distracted. Stephanie is distracted by this chaos too because maybe she had Roxanne pinned, but she can't get the win because the referee is distracted. Then maybe Roxanne recovers enough, gets an opening, does a roll up pin, and then the ref finally can get back into position to do a roll up pin 1, 2, 3. And Roxanne wins that way in a roll up, not with using pop rocks, but just like a roll up. This solves several issues at once. Roxanne gets a win. Stephanie is protected because she didn't just get beaten straight up because everything else was happening around the match. You had Dom, Javon, and Big Cass all outside. Maybe even throw JD in there too, and everybody's just fighting. And then she was distracted by it. It advances Dom and Javon because Javon is still getting beat up by Big Cass, but Dom has now dragged Big Cass into this. So where Big Cass attacks him again. So you got that going too. And then Cass gets another connection to Dom because maybe Cass comes out, maybe Javon has been beating Dom up, and then Cass stops that beat down. You see what I mean? So Cass comes out, beats up Javon again, and then you got another tie between Cass and Dom. And then now both sides of the Judgment Day storylines are linked back up. Because right now it's just been Liv, Raquel, and Roxanne, and then Dom and JD. This would put both of those stories back together, kinda, because you got Roxanne getting the win due to Dom, JD possibly, and Big Cass, and then you got Dom, affecting Roxanne's match, and then you could spin a whole bunch of stuff out of this, which means this will never happen. Would I like it to happen? Of course, because I think this solves a lot of problems. Roxanne gets a little win. It doesn't hurt Stephanie too much, and even here, like maybe you don't get even if Roxanne doesn't win, maybe the match gets tossed because of the chaos. You see what I mean? It just protects Roxanne a little bit. Like I don't want her just losing straight up to Stephanie. So you could do this and maybe not even have the roll up. You could just have it where the match gets tossed out. Maybe Stephanie gets herself DQ'd accidentally just because, all this chaos and, maybe Roxanne pulls an Eddie Guerrero and, get Stephanie disqualified. You see what I mean? So there's a lot of different ways you can go with that, which means this won't happen. Um, Going back around to Monday Night Raw preview, we also will have to see if we get any kind of big cast Dom and JD backstage stuff or promos. Like maybe Big Cass is around and Dom and JD talk to him. Or we have to see if there's a big cast discussion in the clubhouse because we haven't been to the clubhouse in months at this point. So maybe we get something like that. So you have to also see that if going on as well. Um, we also have to see if we get anything with Raquel as relates to Soul and Lyra. And Liv, we already know with Liv and Stephanie, so that is what it is. But here's what the WWE will probably do. We'll probably have Roxanne losing, Liv attack Stephanie afterwards, and maybe Raquel joins in, Becky comes out, and then maybe they have a mutual fight or something like that, and maybe Stephanie and Becky stand tall. That's probably what will happen. And then on the guy's side, Dom probably won't get booked or something like that. We'll probably get Cass and Jabon getting maybe a backstage segment, maybe a backstage brawl, something like that. There won't be any kind of recruitment attempts. There's no Judgment Day leadership conflict, no Dom progression. Dom won't be able to snap his losing streak, and we will come back here afterwards and talk about the WWE refusing to pull another trigger. I would not be surprised. So I think that's it for tonight. Remember, Monday Night Raw will be on at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. So don't tune in to Monday Night Raw at 7 or 7 Central, 8 Eastern, because they'll be on like an hour earlier. No, 2 hours earlier. So remember that it'll be on earlier. Let's see. So Jacob says other stuff, and Judge J, what else do you expect on Raw tomorrow? I don't know. Maybe a Solo when LA Knight Love Fest? I don't know. So that's it. I'm gonna go on and end the stream now. It's getting late. So we will see if any of what I said comes to pass. I hope it does. And if it does, I'm calling scoreboard immediately because I called that shit. But I doubt any of that happens. That'll be something that's nice to have. But that's it. Thank y'all for joining me. And until next time, I bid y'all all adieu. Thanks for playing.